Hey friends, what's happening? This is Andy coming to you from the Daily Funk Club headquarters. And you can't see me, but that's okay because today is all about effects pedals. And we're just going to have some fun as requested. Some people have been, asking me about what I think about pedals and do I use them and what do I think of them and everything like that. So yeah, I have a whole bunch of pedals. And I use them for creative things, and I use them in shows for, for special stuff. Special places in the music where it's really going to enhance the overall situation. So let's just get started. I have 5 pedals here today. I have the Sadowsky SBP1 preamp. I have the Serotonin from Rocket Surgeon Labs. I have the Digitech DL8 hardwired delay. I have the Redwitch Zeus octave fuzz, and I have the MXR bass envelope filter. Okay. So let's just start at this side and work our way. The Sadowsky preamp, I just got it yesterday. I'm totally stoked to be working with Roger. Roger, is one of the most iconic bass builders of all time, and I've been familiar with his basses since the mid-1980s. And it's just such an honor to be working with him now. This preamp is fantastic, and it really the ultimate thing that you need to know about it is that you can make any bass guitar sound like a Sadowsky without having to mod your bass guitar. You see what I'm saying? You just get one of these pedals, and it takes you to the Sadowsky sound, in a snap. Features on it are very simple: volume, treble, and bass. It's a 2-band preamp, has an on-off switch, and then it has a mutable tuner out. And it also has a super great sounding XLR out that's ultra quiet. So there's no frills about it. It's on and off, and you just dial it in to to get the amount of active kind of preamp sound that you want. And the best way to give an example is with this instrument. This is a great example of an instrument to use because this is a passive bass. It has one Nordstrand big man pickup in it. So here's what it sounds like without the preamp turned on. And now with it. And then you match the volume with the volume control. So I love it. Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool. It's great that you can just match the volume, just get it dialed in. So there's the SBP1 Sadowsky preamp. Now, going over to the next one, we have the Rocket Surgeon Serotonin fuzz pedal. I love that pedal. That thing is so cool. It's got so much mojo. Now, let's try something. Let's use the Sadowsky preamp and the DL8 delay. Okay, so here's the delay without the Sadowsky preamp. And with the preamp. So this DL8 is one of my favorites. Back when I was doing a lot of bass clinics and I had to like perform solo bass, which was very foreign for me, it helped to have some delay because it kind of creates a mood and a vibe and a kind of a different kind of sonic space to go to. Okay, the next pedal we have is the Red Witch Zeus, which is a dual function pedal. It has octave and fuzz. So let's hear it with... again, let's go back to the beginning again so we can kind of have a reference of what it sounds like with nothing. This is nothing. Now, this is with just the octave section of the Zeus engaged. Now let's turn on the Sadowsky preamp with the octave. All right, and now we'll add the fuzz section of the Red Witch Zeus. This is what it sounds like without the octave. Now what I found is I like to add the seritone in there. Octave, red witch fuzz, and the seritone. That's pretty rad, pretty gnarly. I keep going to that Geezer tune because it's always a good point of reference to go to Geezer. All right, now on the last pedal is the envelope. And this is a pretty good envelope filter pedal. It's one of the cheap ones, and it's kind of MXR is, when I was growing up in the 80s, MXR was in Rochester, and they were super heavy duty pedals, and these days are much more lightweight, and they're made to be affordable and stuff like that. But there's no denying that it sounds good. So that's a cool pedal. And let's see. Okay, let's hear what it sounds like with the envelope and the octave. That's a pretty awesome sound, you know, octave and envelope together. That's kind of a bootsy way to go. Now let's hear what it sounds like with octave, envelope, and the fuzz that's in the red wedge. Add in the seritone. remember Land of the Lost? That sounds like some Sleestack stuff right there. Alright, cool. So, there's a whole bunch of different ways to incorporate these types of sounds. I definitely like the sound of layering the two fuzz pedals with the octave. For that whole part, I wasn't really plucking with my right hand. I was just sliding around and sustaining it all the way through. You know, these are really bizarre, off-the-wall kind of sounds, but, you know, you could definitely make music with them. That's for sure. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. Nothing. Nothing at all. Clean, but with the Sadowsky preamp. That's a really wonderful sound for me. And one more time with the delay just for kicks. Alright, so we'll leave it on a mellow note. Yeah, these are great, you know, these are some of my faves, and I like to mess around with them. For sure, I'm digging the Sadowsky, and that's going to be a great one that I'm going to be taking on all my gigs now, because what I'll do is I'll just come out of that XLR, and, you know, there's a lot of benefits to having a preamp with a DI as the first thing in your chain, because, you know, at any time something weird could happen. Your amp could shut off, and at least you'll still be in the front of the house, you know. I've never been a fan of going out of the DIs that come out of the amplifier, because what happens if your amp blows up? You're not in front of house anymore. That's what happens. So you always want to go either out of some DI box before going into your amplifier, just to be on the safe side. That's just smart. And now I have this, and it will work perfectly for that. And I like the sound of it. I like the way, I kind of dig that slightly scooped bass and treble thing. You know, that's the Sadowsky sound, and I like that. So, you know, I can get my mids other places. The mids are kind of already there in my EQ structure because I run my amplifier pretty much flat. So, you know, nothing wrong with a little bit of boom and sizzle. If it's used carefully and tastefully. You know, you don't want to over boom and sizzle because then you'll scoop yourself out of the mix. But, you know, I don't hear that happening. I don't think that it's robbing mid-range. I think that it's just enhancing the bass and treble in a really nice way. So this pedal is very cool, and I'm very stoked to be working with Roger and to have that pedal here. The Serotonin, very cool. You know, these kind of fuzz sounds, these kind of dirty fuzz sounds are not something that I use in my everyday life, you know, as a gigging working musician. It's just not my scene. I'm not into the jank, jank music or any of that kind of stuff, really. The closest thing that I come to that is from a long, long time ago with Larry Graham and Geezer and all, and Roger Glover and all those guys. But I could dig it, you know what I mean? And I did use some on my new album, and used tastefully and in the right place. I really get a kick out of it, and it serves the music well. The delay is just a great ambience kind of thing to go to that spooky kind of place because it just is. And this Red Witch pedal is super organic, okay? It doesn't track like a digital octave device tracks. It tracks in a much more organic kind of analog way, and I like it. You know, I think it's a really cool pedal. And then, again, I already said, you know, the MXR stuff, it's not what it used to be in terms of build quality. You know, we got to be honest here, but it still sounds good. So there's my take on what I presented to you today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah, good, you know, effects are a fun thing to do, fun thing to have, and God knows there's a bazillion types of music.